Welcome back to FARMcast, a production of the University of Nebraska-Lincoln Center for Agricultural Profitability. In this 4-part mini-series, we're exploring the 4 essential components of a strong succession plan. We're joined by succession planning expert and extension professional Anastasia Meyer, who shares practical strategies to help farm and ranch families navigate the future with confidence. In today's episode, we're focusing on business planning, legal structures, and family meetings, both of which are necessary for a successful transition. We'll discuss how to communicate existing business structures or consider new ones, and facilitate meaningful family conversations to build a foundation for a successful farm transition.
First thing that we need to think about is the business planning, right? We said that this was the first step. And really the biggest question that we need to ask ourselves for business planning is the hard question of, is this viable? Is this farm or ranch viable to succeed onto the next generation? If it is bleeding money right now and cannot cash flow, should you be looking at different avenues? Or if you're just getting by, can you bring in another family unit to support on the farm or ranch alone? What does that look like for you? This is a hard question to ask, and a lot of times we don't share our financials with the other generations. And so we have to be willing to talk about this. If somebody is returning to the farm or ranch, we have to be willing to talk about how are we paying them? We should have some documentation. What does that look like? How much are they getting paid? What are those benefits that they might be getting? And what exactly are they responsible for? And then really, what's the future for the operation? Is there room for expansion? Are you in an area that is super ultra competitive and is not really room to grow? Or is that available there? Can they branch out into different niche markets? And then also, what is the debt associated with the business? When I talk to different people, especially heirs, they don't ever think about the debt, and they don't know about the debt that a farm or ranch might have. But remember, you are passing on assets and debt when you're going to have a transition plan. So it's something that we need to think about when we're having this plan. And then we need to be thinking about family business meetings. You can't have a good family business without trust. So you have to build your trust, and you have to practice the good communication to maintain the trust or build the trust. When you're having these family business meetings on what does this transition plan look like, you really need to decide of who are you inviting to this meeting. Really, it's a golden rules, right? Whoever is the owner of the farm or ranch gets to make the rules and invite who they want. My rule of thumb is invite everybody. Invite the on-farm heirs, invite the off-farm heirs, invite the in-laws, the outlaws, invite the children or grandchildren. If they have a stake in that farm or ranch, invite them. A lot of times we're asked, do we invite the in-laws? I think that the in-laws can offer a unique perspective, right? Because if I'm thinking about this 80 here, I might have one recollection where my spouse might have another, right? Is there emotional attachment tied there, or are you thinking in a different mindset? I think that if they are signing loan documents, they need to be at the table, though. Who gets to speak during these meetings? I think, you need to set this meetings up with, are you gathering ideas or just making decisions? Who gets to speak? Well, that's up to you as well, right? But who also is making the decisions? Is it the owners, or are you going to let everybody have a vote? I think this is probably going to come down to, how is your ground currently owned? Do you have LLCs? Do you have trust? What does that look like? Are you allowing people to vote? And is it majority or unanimous? Do only siblings, heirs get voting privileges? Have these discussions before you start these family business meetings. And the first thing that you guys need to be addressing during these family business meetings is, are we committed to being a family at the end of this? Are we still going to be a family when mom and dad dies? The general assumption that we hear is oftentimes, yes, we are going to be a family, but the follow through may not be there. So get everybody committed to that. And then these family business meetings typically go a lot smoother if that is the first thing that is addressed. So keep on going with family business meetings. Who gets to decide when to have a business meetings? Well, the owners. They should be communicating with everybody on when the meeting is, what is it going to be about, and where, the location, time, details, all of that. The owners need to be deciding that. We don't recommend that you have it on Thanksgiving when everybody's home, or we don't recommend that it's at the kitchen table. We want somewhere that it's comfortable, it's at a neutral location, because we don't want to fall into the dynamics of, mom and dad sit in their spots, they are the power holders, siblings sit in their spots, they pick on each other. I like to have it in an extension office, a library, somewhere like that, that it's neutral, but it's also limits distractions. These conversations are hard. And when they're hard, it's really easy to say, well, I got stuff to do, I got chores to do, and go to the barn or go to the shop that's 100 feet from the door. It focuses you to devote that time to the meeting and the transition planning process, right? Again, you should probably make an agenda. It's important that everybody or one person takes notes and everybody is shared with those notes soon. We need to make sure that my recollection matches mom and dad's and brothers, and that we have them to review before we go and meet again. So before you leave, you're going to have a next meeting date. You're going to say the minutes are going to be sent out, and you're going to send them out to make sure that my memory matches your memories. And then we also need some ground rules. So the first ground rule that I recommend that we set is to use facts to discuss business, right? So this is when we're going to look at the balance sheets and say that, well, the farm is profitable, the farm is not profitable. We're not going to use the assumption that, well, the farm must be doing great because we have all these assets, right? No, we're only going to use those facts to discuss it. It's a safe space. So, a lot of times siblings fall into the teasing, yelling, especially in like sarcastic families. We're not going to do that when we're having these, because again, we have to build trust and we have to be willing to work with each other. So a safe space, we're not going to fall into those teasing, yelling, or criticizing family members. The no gossip rule. This means that what is said at the table is going to stay at the table, and you're not going to talk amongst one another with it. I fully realize that husband and wife are going to be talking and debriefing with it after these meetings. But what this means is I'm not going to call my brother and say, can you believe what my sister said, and just gossip about that, right? We're not going to do that. We're going to leave it within the family units. And then if I want to address it, I can address it at the next family meeting. I'm not going to gossip with one of my siblings and just build that resentment on it. We are also going to have a gag rule or a talking stick rule, right? I'm only going to allow you to speak once per topic, maybe have a time limit on it, and I'm not going to allow any interruptions when you are talking. It's amazing how sometimes you need that talking stick just to have people follow these no interruptions and only speaking once per topic. We just don't want this meeting to just end up in a continual circle of debate where nothing actually gets accomplished. And then we have to realize that people process things in a different way than you might. And so if you are an internal processor, if your sibling or parent, if they're being quiet through this, it doesn't mean that they are accepting it or not accepting it. It means that there might just be processing it a little bit different than you. And a lot of times, if you're a vocal processor and someone else is an internal processor, there's some disagreements there. And just know that it's okay. And, that's when it's going to get brought up at that next meeting. In succession planning, in transition planning, honestly, the family issues are the biggest challenges that we have to work through in a transition plan, right? Whether it is something that happened 50 years ago, or siblings don't get along, or a parent and a child doesn't get along. But those are the biggest things and the hardest things to address when we are working through a transition plan.
Thank you for listening to another episode of FARMcast, a production of the University of Nebraska-Lincoln Center for Agricultural Profitability. For more information on succession planning or the Nebraska Land Link program, please visit CAP's website at cap.unl.edu.